trying to jog my memory.
We just got back from executive session,
Decisions were made.
and we're going to call the order, pledge allegiance to the flag. It's Councilmember Hornby. Will you lead us, please?
Please stand. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Hornby. It is Thursday, February 23, 2023. Bienvenidos a todos de habla hispana en español. Les quiero saber que pues aquí cualquier cosa que necesiten, estoy a su servicio. El alcalde, ahorita estoy presente yo. Muchas gracias y espero que también se puedan comunicar con nosotros. I'm in the wrong place, huh? Any citizen comments? Any citizens out here? We'll give you 3 minutes to give your address to council. Anyone? Going once? Twice? Okay. Consent items. We need anyone who want to motion the agenda? And I think we can do all three together, can we?
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that we adopt the consent items consisting of this evening's agenda, vouchers, and minutes from previous meetings. Motion for the City Council to accept work performed by the contractor Rudnick and Sons LLC on the Washington Street Traffic Calming City Project number 2005.03, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher, and a motion for the council to accept the work performed by the contractor Central Washington Asphalt on the 2020 Pavement Preservation City Project number 1913, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher.
Second. We have a motion with Councilmember Kulas, second with Councilmember Poyer, to approve the agenda, vouchers, and minutes from previous meetings, to accept the work performed by the contractor, Rudnick and Sons, LLC, on the Washington Street Traffic Calming City Project number 2005.03, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher, and to accept the work performed by the contractor, Central Washington Asphalt, on the 2020 Pavement Preservation City Project number 1913, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract. Any questions? I would have taken, okay, we did that already. Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Forgot to mention, I apologize that, all council members are present except for Linda, Councilmember Harold. Is she's excused? Okay, thank you. Presentations today. We have an annual point in time count. Councilmember Sasha Slayman. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, gosh, I better pull up
We
my,
have these, but just in case you want these too.
I gotta pull out my list of questions that I promised not to ask.
Good evening, council members. I'm Sasha Slayman, here representing Chelan County and the Housing Program Coordinator, Manager, for the homeless, program over at Chelan County. Also on the City of East Wenatchee City Council, but it's not the hat I'm going to wear today, so I won't go there. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the homeless point in time count. This is something that we collaborated on as the cities and the counties. And so I thought, even though I sent you guys a very long email with so many numbers, that I would come and go through it and answer any questions you guys have. So overall, the point in time count, we saw an overall increase, I would say, in we saw an overall increase in sheltered and unsheltered, but the great news is we saw a decrease in those living out of doors, meaning we have more people in shelters or in the RV safe parks, which is great. The unsheltered count, meaning those living on the street, was 105 countywide, but for the urban core, it's 61, which is down from 113 last year. I think it's really important for both this body and the city of East Wenatchee to know, because I think that's a direct correlation from the policies that the two cities have enacted, the extension of or expansion of shelter beds, the RV safe parks. So you have to remember that last year we would have counted all of those RVs that were out on the street, right? We counted all of those as unsheltered. So now that they're in a facility, they have access to services, they're being plugged into the system, they're considered sheltered. So that sheltered number is 368. And that counts anyone who is in the HMIS system, the state database that we have. So in a proper shelter program, transitional housing program, this doesn't though count folks, this is a really hard population to grab. This doesn't count people who are living like doubled up or with friends on a couch in a hotel that's paid for by, let's say, a church or a non-participating organization. It doesn't count, for example, we counted for our own purposes, but this is in addition to that 368. We surveyed folks who were incarcerated, that if they would have been released that day of the count, they would have been homeless. That's 36. And then we did the same thing at the Center for Drug and Alcohol, which was 5. The state and federal governments don't count those numbers, so we don't report those, but I think it's important for us to know as a community, just kind of the overall span. And then there's some demographic information there. I think what I want to pull out there is the age. Obviously, there's a lot of folks in the 30 to 50 category, but if you notice the 50 and above, we have quite a few individuals who are in the aged population above 50, and we see even more of that in the shelter. So at the Wenatchee Rescue Mission, for example, probably 50-ish% of people are over the age of 55. So then the next thing I wanted to highlight for you is a big thank you to you and your staff. The city of Wenatchee provided the surveying tool that we use. So instead of using Google spreadsheets and surveys, we had nice actual surveys which were downloaded with HUD information. All the questions that HUD requires us to ask were right there. And then it also allowed us to geotag where we were doing the surveying or where the person reported that they slept. And then it produces a database, a very large spreadsheet, like an enormously large spreadsheet that we have to navigate. But it was really, really helpful this year and I think produced much better data. So thank you to the team. The GIS team here at the city has been amazing, community development team. So thank you for that. This just dives a little bit more into those who are living out of doors, so that 105. 46 were on the street, 40 in vehicles not in the safe parks. And then where they reported sleeping, I think is important to note, 46 in Wenatchee and 15 in East Wenatchee. So that's where we got that 61. But then we also looked at, obviously, the unincorporated areas, the cities of Chelan, Leavenworth, and Cashmere. A number on here that's interesting also to note is that 34 people indicated this is their first time being homeless. We'd heard that anecdotally over the last few months. Families, there were several families in December that had never been homeless before, never needed assistance before, lost their housing for whatever reason, and these are larger families that we had a lot of struggle trying to house or to have in shelters. So we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to evictions and rental assistance. So that's something for us to, as policymakers, to keep an eye on because it's quite a few people. Usually you see the same individuals and the providers kind of know all of the folks in the system, and we had quite a few who were new to this. Where are people from? This was a big data point for me that I really wanted to understand. We wanted to specifically ask where the person's last permanent residence was. So where did they lose their housing? So not necessarily where they last came from, but where did they lose their housing? So you'll see 65 people said they lost their housing here in Chelan-Douglas County, 20 of those here in Wenatchee, and 14 in East Wenatchee, and then all the other areas as well. But and then 23 people talked about losing their homes in other areas of Washington, and then 6 in other states. So I think it's really important for us to understand where people are coming from, how many of our our citizens are losing their housing, what can we do about that? And then, of course, there's anecdotal information that's not captured here, right? These are just of the 105 that we talked to. This can be different if you were to talk to this in the shelters or on a different day. With all of these numbers, remember that this is just one point in time. So this is just the one day, which was January 26th. So this can all ebb and flow quite a bit. And then as you're thinking about and funding different shelter programs, do we have the right services? So we asked people if they were willing to go to a shelter if there was room. 44 people said yes, 50 people said no, and these were the top reasons why. A lot of people have pets, and they don't want to be separated from their pets, or they're separated from their partner of an opposite sex. So the pallet shelters that you have ordered to go to the Wenatchee Rescue Mission should alleviate a lot of those individual concerns, right? Because the pallet shelter can house 2 people, so hopefully that will take some of that barrier away. Same thing with pets, I think, right? So they can have their pet. So hopefully some of those 50 will be willing to go to that program. But 44 people said, hey, if there was room and we felt safe, we'd go. So that's promising to know that we will fill those beds as we continue to increase beds. This was a new question for the point in time count. We hadn't asked this before, but we wanted to get an understanding for what caused the person's homelessness. The top 3 answers were eviction, job loss, and mental illness. And the specific question was, what circumstance led to your homelessness? They were given this entire list, so they could list off more than one. So one person could have listed 5 of these. And then these were our partners that we either provided staff to help with outreach or came and tabled. It's a big oversight, but the Wenatchee Housing Authority is also on there. I don't know how I didn't get them on the list, but I fixed it on my other version. So, but great show of community partnership on the day of. And then this is kind of the run through of the numbers over the last many years since 2006. So this does show us that we have more people in total sheltered and unsheltered. But again, you'll see a drop in the total unsheltered. And then the chronically homeless individual looks very low, but that's because I don't have the sheltered number yet. That comes from Commerce later. And if you're interested in more information on the shelter part, this is really focused on the unsheltered. I can get that for you. It's just that comes from Commerce directly. So they'll pull it from our databases from all the shelter programs, and then they'll feed me back all that information. But I could always get it for you if you needed. This is just the graph of the other one. And then I won't spend a ton of time on this, but just to let you know, we do a summer point in time count. The City of Wenatchee team started doing this in July of 2021. And we wanted to know, I was new to my position, so the city took point on that. And then I did it last year, and we'll continue to do it going forward. We wanted to know the difference between summer and winter. This is not required by the state or federal government, but I think it's important that the city started doing that and that we continue doing it. We did it over the course of 3 days, so it's a little different than the way we do the winter count. But the total number of individuals that we talked to were 182 people. So that's obviously quite different from the winter. So that is the comparison. So 182 versus 105. I will caveat that part of this could be poor data. Now that Dylan on your GIS team and I have gone through this software a little bit more, I'm thinking that I did not do that as well in the summer. So it's a new software for both of us, and we're kind of learning the kinks. Well, I am. He's not. He's great at it. But the summer count also going forward, I'd like to do a little bit more structure to it. Right now, we just do it over a course of several days, and make sure that people go to the different areas we know they need to go to. But it's not quite as structured as the winter. The winter, I have zones. I know that I sent Scott over to Malaga, and I sent Jane over to East Wenatchee. Like, I know where people were assigned to go, and then they would report back to me, and if we needed more people to go to that area, so that way we didn't cross-reference. So For example, if somebody told me they went to Kashmir, but I already had somebody in Kashmir, then I made sure to look at the surveys that both of those outreach people, staff members produced, and if they were both in the same area, looked at the survey to make sure they didn't talk to the same person. So we tried really hard to deduplicate in that way. Didn't do that as much with the summer count. So I think there's work to do on how to get better summer numbers, but I think it's obvious anecdotally that our numbers increase in the summer. People come and work agriculture, people come outdoors. I always give the analogy that, you know, if you don't have a stable place to live, or not the analogy, the example, if you don't have a stable place to live and you are desperate for a roof over your head when it's 20 degrees out, you probably are willing to stay in whatever situation you can figure out. But when it's nice outside, you don't need to put yourself in harm's way staying in a terrible situation. You could go stay outside. So anyway, so more to come on that. We'll continue partnering with the city team on that. So that's the info. So I'm happy to take questions, happy to get you guys any more information that you need, or if you think of stuff later on. Glenn and I talk probably every other day, if not multiple times a day. So just let him know, he can let me know, or you can reach out to me.
So, Sasha,
Yeah.
a couple things. Is there a House bill now to help with some evictions for money? Then I had a couple other questions too.
Yeah, so actually the county, I just received the preliminary budget for what's called the CHG fund, the Consolidated Homeless Grant Fund, that's recording fees that go up to the state and come back. There's a new line item called eviction prevention. So we used to just get CHG and HEN, and now we'll get eviction prevention. And it's projected to be a fair amount of money, so we should be able to then put back those same programs that we have now. Right now is a weird period where everybody is starting to run low on those funds, but then they should be regenerated. But I'm waiting for the state legislature and the state budget to finalize to see how much that money actually is.
Okay, and then my other, because I heard his presentation before. And,
Yes,
and,
twice now, right? No, once, yeah.
And it was brought up about the schools, and maybe
Yes.
you can educate me again, and maybe some of the other city council about how that corresponds and how many children are, these numbers are, you explain it.
Yes, the numbers are hard, are difficult. So the school district uses a slightly different definition of homelessness than HUD, the federal government's definition. And so when I talk to them about how many homeless students they have, the number is much, much larger than the number I come up with. And that's because they are counting students who are living with another student's family, a student that's living with grandma and grandpa, but they shouldn't be, right? That's not their guardian. But also students who are living in substandard housing or housing that's not, meant for habitation. But I think it's a really, really important partnership to have, because when we talk about this on a larger scale and look at how many families and individuals in our community are unstably housed, that's, I think, where we'll get that information. It's super hard for us to find it when we're going out on the street, but if the school district knows, little Jimmy is staying in some place that they shouldn't, are their parents with them? Are they not? Do we have unstably housed adults as well as children? Can we then move forward? So we work with the McKinney-Vento program at the Wenatchee School District, a decent amount, but that was a goal for this point in time count that I didn't achieve, which was I wanted to pull in all of the school districts and have a little bit more crossover. The regional, why am I blanking on the name? The NCESD has offered to help me out in that, and so I just need to take them up on that. So I think it would be really good for us over the next year to really hone in on what the school district is seeing, because they're seeing I think a slightly bigger picture of unstably housed individuals that we should kind of really look into.
And you're talking like 400 or 500, 700
Yeah,
students, yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, and I'd hate to speak for them, but yes.
And I understand there's different
400 and
parameters.
some.
They deal with different parameters.
Yeah.
But so it's not just 100, even though one person's too
Right.
many. But even though it's 140 or 30 here, we're talking
Right.
500, 600 in our community.
Yeah. And that couch surfing one, or the state calls it doubled up, that's really important when we're talking about how many affordable housing units do we need? Because if, I might be perfectly happy couch surfing or staying with a friend, but ideally, it would be nice if I had a place to live that was my own. So then we need to factor how many of those people we have in the community so that we can make sure that we have the right number of apartments or single-family homes, or do we need more ADUs, or do we need, what kind of housing stock do we need? And I know that's a conversation at the LVOF level that Laura and I take part in for the Housing Solutions Group. And, I know the cities are working on pre-approved plans for ADUs, but what kind of housing stock do we need? It's bigger than homelessness itself. So that's something that we need to look into for sure
Thank you.
and understand. So I'll try to have that data next year. That was my big goal, and I dislike admitting that I don't achieve my goals. So thanks a lot. I'm just kidding.
Any other questions? Council members?
Thank you very much.
Good, yeah.
Very
It's all
informative.
good.
Sasha, I have one more question. Sorry.
You've heard this presentation twice now.
Yes,
so
I
you
have
should
asked
any more-
questions in different
You
ways.
have, every time. I love it. Go ahead.
In the counts that you have now,
Mm-hmm.
are any of those counts individuals working? You guys have any counts
Yes.
with people working?
Thank you for asking that. I do. Did I not put it in here? No, I didn't. That's great. Yes, so.
I want to see the good news.
You know why I didn't put it in here? Because in this, it doesn't look notable, but it is notable. Of the unsheltered population, I believe it was 6 individuals who said they were working 3 part-time, 3 full-time, which blew my mind away, that working full-time and that they were living out of doors. But I will let Scott report this, or Glenn report this via Scott, but I can tell you anecdotally from the last I heard, last I was out there, quite a few, I won't give you a number so that I'm not misquoted, but quite a few people living in our Safe Park 2, our North End Safe Park, are working full-time. Quite a few of the people living in the Wenatchee Rescue Mission shelter are working full-time or part-time. So we have a lot of individuals who are working, and it's the price of rent or the price of home ownership that's keeping them unhoused, not other co-occurring things that you often hear about, SUD and behavioral health and other things. So we definitely have a huge challenge with behavioral health and substance use, but there is a significant portion of this population that is working and just can't afford rent. So back to that housing component. I see this is all a very big, it's all a big ladder. There's lots of ways that we need to work on this, and it's not just, one layer. So, yes.
And how
Yeah.
frequent you guys do counts?
Just-
Just to get the results you guys are looking for, and for the public to know
Mm-hmm.
that the entities are working, the agencies are working. How
Mm-hmm.
frequently you're doing counts?
The formal point in time counts, we just do the 2 times, the summer and the winter. But technically, any of us can pull a roster report to see from the database, because everybody staying in a shelter or in a transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, they're logging data. We can pull a report to see how many people are in any given shelter. So, and we do that, and it's funding cycle time now, so there'll be a lot of reporting from the agencies on how many people they transitioned into permanent housing and all of that the 2 task forces will need to look at. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sasha. Any more questions?
Okay,
Thanks for coming in.
thank you. Let me know if you need any other information.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I need to do anything with the computer?
That's it. Action items. We have Laura for the North Wenatchee Avenue tax increasement.
Good evening, Council. Laura Gloria, Executive Services Director. The item before you is Ordinance 2023-02, designating the North Wenatchee Avenue Tax Increment Financing Area. So this has been an effort that staff has been working on for quite some time, attached to the North Wenatchee redevelopment area. That is a couple of properties that the city purchased in 2015 that were impacted by the Sleepy Hollow fire, when the intent was to redevelop those for private use and to redevelop those. In July of 2021, there was also a House Bill 1189, that allowed the tax increment financing tool to help support public infrastructure. And so that actually has worked really nicely for us to be able to focus on the North Wenatchee redevelopment area and now have a tool to continue to invest in that. So a TIF district is a map up. No worries, I can keep going. So the TIF district is, which is in the packet, is the map, or you might be able to see it here on your screen. There it is. Thank you. Along North Wenatchee Avenue, it includes those parcels that the city owns, as well as some other private properties. Those other private properties were included in the TIF district because we anticipate that those might redevelop. For example, Hooked on Toys has purchased some property from us in the past and is intending to move from their current location and develop a new location along this area. And so the increase in redevelopment helps to add value to the tax increment financing district. So what we're proposing today is for the city council to establish the tax increment financing district. We've gone through all of the necessary steps. That was holding the 2 public hearings back in October. Our project analysis for the work has also been reviewed by the state treasurer's office, and that was attached in the packet. And then the ordinance has been presented, and it's been advertised on the city's website as well as through the local newspaper. Next slide. Perfect. One of the questions I get a lot is, are my taxes increasing? What does this mean? And so I found this graphic. It was actually really interesting to be able to show in a quick glance how this works. So you've got your baseline property value of all the properties that are in that in that area that you will set or propose to set. What the city is doing is we are improving the infrastructure. So we are building Confluence Parkway, McKittrick, Mega Kittrick as we're calling it, North Wenatchee Avenue. All of those public improvements will help incentivize private development, because that's a big piece of that cost, the infrastructure connecting to utilities, sidewalks, all of that stuff. So we are investing in that, in the infrastructure, which will mean there's new construction, which means that the assessed property values will increase. Instead of that increase of property value going back to the taxing districts or to the taxing agencies like the city, the counties, the port, that increment we get as the city back into that bucket, but it's in essence paying back the infrastructure that we've invested in it. The TIF district would sunset at 25 years or earlier if we're able to collect the money that we need sooner rather than later. So there is a cap on that. But the big thing that I want to show here too is that absent that investment in infrastructure that we're doing through infra and through all of the staff time and the capacity that's taken to apply for those grants, to manage, to administer, absent that effort, there wouldn't be an increase in value. So nobody would be getting this money otherwise if there wasn't this investment already. And so that's why it's a really interesting tool where in essence it's allowing you to capitalize on the investment that's being made. But then after the sunset term, then everybody gets it and you're at a much higher valuation and you've been able to incentivize new construction, new businesses, new jobs, sales tax, a bunch of other ancillary but very valuable and important things. So I'll divert back to the ordinance after that short explanation. So yeah, the ordinance that is in front of you tonight would be to set the district, to set the boundary, and then to allow us to then send that over to the assessor's office so that she can start collecting that in next year and to start to collect against that. And happy to answer any questions that I might have missed.
Are there any downsides to this, say that after the termination, the value of the properties didn't go as high as we expected, and so therefore there's a difference in the values?
There's no real downside, so that's a great question. So what's on the screen here is a projected value of what we could collect over the next 25 years. It's at $4.4 million. That's based on the assessed value of $50 million. We really don't know, right? We can't really control it. We can control it potentially on our property. We're doing some development agreements with some agencies that we know that's gonna develop here, and that's what's gonna look like. But timing, this is kind of what we've guessed could happen. We're investing that money anyhow, right?
Yeah.
So there,
But what happens, I mean, they say, yes, we're gonna go forward with this based on your numbers, but in termination period, it's only 3.5 million instead of
Yeah.
4.4.
there's no risk to anybody other than ourselves that we didn't collect as much as we
Okay.
would initially anticipate, I guess. Is that the answer to your question? Is that what you're looking for? Yeah. So we are hoping to collect for at least 4.4. If that doesn't
But
capitalize.
if we don't, we're just out the money.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I would have taken a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2023-02, designating the North Wenatchee Avenue tax increment finance area, fixing the boundaries thereof, and providing for related matters.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Kulas. Thank you. To adopt ordinance number 2023-02, designating the North Wenatchee Avenue tax increment financing area, fixing the boundaries thereof, and providing for related matters. Any discussion? Hear none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Wastewater treatment.
Good evening, council. I'm Mike Hodgson. I'm the wastewater treatment supervisor for the city, and I'm here to request that the city council award the construction contract for the wastewater treatment plant dry and bed expansion, project 2211, to the lowest responsible bidder and authorize mayor to sign. I guess that's probably your deal here. This report is a follow-up from the city council approval of the 23 budget amendment to move forward with the construction of the wastewater dry and bed expansion. And the budget was adopted for construction at a cost of $2.75 million. The project was advertised on January 24, 23. The city received 9 bids on February 9th. Hearst Construction is the apparent low bidder at the base price, including all alternates at 2.37, which is, I don't know, what's that, 400,000 less. Funding from this project strictly from the 405 sewer fund, and it's been adopted in the capital improvement facility. Construction will start in the spring of 23 with 165 working days. Simple as that. Any questions?
Mike, it's nice to hear that we got 9 people
Yeah.
bidding for it. So,
No, that was very pleasant.
Competition is good.
Okay, any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion. Motion for the city council to award the construction contract for the wastewater treatment plant dry and bed expansion project number 2211 and the lowest responsible bidder for Hearst Construction, authorize the mayor to sign the contract documents.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Rajanastian. To award the construction contract for the wastewater treatment plant dry and bed expansion, project number 2211, to the lowest responsive bidder, Hearst Construction, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract documents. Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Mike.
much.
Parkside renovation. Aaron.
Good evening, council. Aaron Kelly, Public Works Operations Manager. I'm here tonight with the contract award for the Parkside project, renovation project number 2206. The project addresses several site issues, including the building's roofing, attic ventilation, repairing siding, soffit, fascia, replacing concrete and asphalt throughout the site, replacing the retaining wall and fencing on the west side of the property, and addressing surface water concerns at the site as well. We received bids from Whitebird Construction and Rudnick and Sons. Rudnick and Sons LLC was the lowest responsive bidder with the total cost, including 7 alternates, at $1,330,914.97. This project is fully funded through the Department of Commerce grant that we received. With your approval, we'd start this project yet this spring and finish in early summer. I know that was a bit short and sweet, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions? Council members? Okay. I would entertain any motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for City Council to approve the contract with Rudnick and Sons LLC and authorize the mayor's signature for city project number 2206, Parkside Renovation Project.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Rajanastian, second by Councilmember Hornby, to approve the contract with Rudnick and Sons LLC and authorize the mayor's signature for city project number 2206, Parkside Renovation Project. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Reports. Laura, do I have any reports?
Yes, you do. Just a couple of things to report. The Wenatchee Downtown Association Appreciation Dinner was last night, and I know that all of the council members and the mayor were in attendance, so that was a great event. Linda Haglin's last event as executive director, but welcoming Rosa Polito. The chamber banquet is next week, so if you all haven't signed up yet, please let us know. We'll be happy to get you tickets. But that is next week, Thursday, I believe. And then 2 more events just upcoming for the council's information. There's the Mega Kittrick groundbreaking ceremony on March 7th at 10:30, and then Rails and Ales on March 10th. That is a event that is supported through our lodging tax funds, and it's really been we've really been advertising a lot for that event regionally in hopes to continue to support that lodging tax and get people in to stay here and visit and get to visit our great area. So those are some great events that are upcoming. Nothing other than that.
Okay. Reports, council members?
I would add on the banquet that Parks Department employee Jared Gardner was honored by the Downtown Association with the Spirit of Downtown for his work downtown, and I think he was pretty surprised, and it was a nice touch. And I suggested to Mr. Erickson that he drag Mr. Gardner before us at some meeting so we can thank him for his efforts.
He does work hard.
Yeah, he does. He was really very active in the projects, the pickleball court project and the Peace Plaza project at Rotary Park last year and will be again this year. Meetings that I've had this week included the Link Transit. It was kind of a normalish meeting. We're going to have a strategy session in March. If I were to read tea leaves, I think there is still some uncertainty as to when the voters approved the increased sales tax and Link has accepted some of that and has deferred some of it. I think some of the opposition to that initiative is raised up again. So we'll see what kind of strategy sessions we have in March on what to do with the sales tax increases. The museum board also met on Tuesday. A lot of discussion of what's beginning the capital campaign and the design phase for improving the museum. And Mr. Kelly's had a lot of conversations with the museum, and the museum's still kind of in flux. Okay, they don't own, Museum and Cultural Center don't own the building, the city does, and they don't own Centennial Park, the city does, and just how that interface is going to work. And I know it's all going to come together because we have such great staff and cooperative people. So, but that is kicking off the museum fundraising and the design process for the improvements there. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee met Wednesday. got a great report from the Chamber of Commerce on marketing efforts and things coming up in the future. The revenues are doing okay, and we'll just continue to meet. And as Laura mentioned, the Rails and Ales event on the 10th, and don't forget the world's second shortest St. Patrick's Day Parade on Friday, March 17th at 7-ish.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Kulas. Anybody else?
So last Thursday, we had public safety. Chief Brett from our regional fire department was here. He's talking about getting our insurance rating lowered yet again. So currently, we're at a 4, and he believes that the next evaluation, because of new equipment that brought online and new staff they brought online, that we could be down to a 3, which will significantly impact insurance premiums that people pay. That's great news. Sounds like everything else was going well at the fire department. We also had Sergeant Reinfeld from Chelan County Emergency Management give us an update. Not a lot going on there. They're always updating the plan. That just seems to be an ongoing thing. Just continuous, right? Yeah. We also had Captain Reinfeld and Captain Chance, and Tammy Patterson came in, gave us a update on what's going on at the police department. A lot of information on traffic that was kind of interesting. You look at the amount of infractions that have been handed out. There are more infractions being given, but less people being pulled over. And the other statistic that stood out to me was the amount of accidents that we've had this year have significantly increased. And my comment to that was, you see people driving through Wenatchee like they don't care whether they're going to get pulled over or not. It's, go ahead, try. Because I know I can outrun you and you're not allowed to chase me right now. So that's kind of discouraging, and I think maybe that's contributed to the number of accidents that we've seen. I was hoping that the state was going to have better actions about changing that, and I was discouraged to hear the news from the state on that. Other than that, sounds like we have a parking enforcement person going through a background check right now. That's still currently going on? Okay, so that will be good news for downtown.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, but downtown especially. And we're still looking for police officers. We're still down 2 right now, and 3, okay? And possibly some retirements coming up the next year.
Thank you, Councilmember Huffaker.
Just a
Hornby?
quick update, Rivercom meeting, Lowell has been the interim executive director, and they are opening that position open for filling his position, hopefully before October. He has a hard leave date, October, so hopefully we get some good candidates in the next few weeks or months, and as Lowell leaves us, so a little update there.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Arjuna.
No, Councilmember Kulas already talked about LTAC, but yeah, nothing else to share.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Poyer.
Well, we had finance, and this is where all the departments come in and look at all their numbers, and it's interesting to see a couple things that stood out was public disclosure requests were up, which makes it a budget on the departments, and one is the highest number is actually Chief Crown mentioned was through the police department. The other thing that stood out was, as you noticed, Aaron reported the snow this year, because we had it at the beginning of 2022 and at the end, and usually it's only one time through the cycle. I had to think about that, so that actually kind of killed the part on that budget. And it is kind of, in anybody's budget that was lower was usually into salaries, because we're not fulfilled everybody in all of our employment, but it's always good to make sure we hire the right people. so they'll stay a long time. And we did get a couple engineers, I think, filled, and we're looking for one more, I believe. So I thought it was very positive, and I believe now the state requires it twice a year, Brad? Now, that, you, used to be, isn't it?
It's still annual, they just moved one of the audits,
One of the audits, okay,
so that it will be covered 2 years at least.
next one. So,
Thank you,
Any
Councilmember.
big impacts from the bump in pay that we, the
It
retained
affect-
employee,
it came in budget because we didn't have all
because we were short?
short employees, yes.
Okay, anything else?
Well, you have a report?
I have a report.
Well, I'll talk through you. Go ahead and give a report.
Thank you, sir. I attended both homeless task force, the city and the counties, and as what you guys heard from Sasha, that's what I was in. Public safety, as you heard from Councilmember Huffaker, the same thing. And I'll be in a disability meeting on Monday. And I will be meeting Scott from the homeless sometime next week. We gotta get together and talk about, just get a little tour of what's going on with the homeless and the pallet shelters coming in, since it's under my jurisdiction of district. I'm gonna go check it out. Also, for the public safety, in addition, Captain Chance want me to share this with you, that we have the speeding measuring device. It's on, we only have one, is that correct?
There's currently just one.
Just one, okay.
Yeah.
So we have one, and it's currently on Russell Street, and it's gonna be removed pretty soon due to the cold weather, because it only captures certain hours of activity. And they're gonna see what are the hopes or the results from that, and place the next one, hot spots, or,
Yeah, so Corporal Mark Ward manages both of our trailers, our speed measuring trailers, and the signs that we have, which is one of the portable signs is what's deployed right now, and it just captures data. It will have been out for almost 10 days, I think. He's planning to probably pull it tonight and start taking a look at the data, but it's catching, it should be catching speeds for traffic east and west on Russell Street there in front of Pioneer Middle School, so hopefully we're catching some of the traffic of major concern coming from the high school. So we'll be looking at, I'll be communicating with him about the results of that data, and specifically looking at the school start times and end times during those portions of the day, and trying to identify any periods of time through the day that are of a particular concern, if you will. So we'll see what we can get. It will have been out, like I said, for almost 10 days, I think. So it's pretty good with some of the warmer temperatures that we've had until the last few days. But that's definitely one of the challenges with any of those devices, putting them out during the winter months. They don't tend to last long enough to really make the data that they can collect in such a short period of time very usable, because then we have to recharge them for a day or two and then redeploy them, and we're not getting a larger chunk of data over consecutive days. So, but we'll see what we get, and I'd be happy to share that information with Councilman Cuevas or with the council at an upcoming meeting. And we may even roll Corporal Ward into that and just have him come up and present that, as he's the one that has the knowledge of pulling that data and really looking at it with an analytical eye. So, more to come.
thank you, sir.
I thought of a perfect sign for our school zones. Only you can prevent speed zone cameras.
That's a good one. Any other announcements? Councilmember Kulas?
Yeah, about a month ago, I distributed information to you on the possibility of establishing a salary commission that would that could be organized or formed to address council member salaries, as opposed to having that be a council function. And while I appreciate that we have good functioning committees. I think it's a topic that merits soon discussion and discussion by the seven of us at one time, as opposed to just three people on the finance committee, for example. So I guess I'm proposing that we consider some items for March 16th study session, including the potential, the discussion of whether or not we want to proceed with establishing a salary commission, and there may be that some of you are also interested in talking amongst the seven of us for, an hour, hour and a half.
Councilmember Kulas, I don't know if Carrie has gotten a chance to talk to you, but she is preparing something for consideration based off of the information that you submitted for the 23rd, if that would be okay with the council. Obviously, we can also have the 16th if that's of preference, but she's working on the structure and then would be presenting that to both committees in advance as well, so to Public Works, to Finance Committee, and then bringing it back again to the full City Council for consideration and discussion, but we're happy to reschedule or manage as however you guys see fit.
You were thinking more of a work session rather
We'll see
than-
if there was an appetite for it, and if so, what options do we, as the policymakers, think are best? For example, if we did it, do they meet annually? Do they meet every 2 years? Do they meet every 4 years? Because it seems to be all over the board, depending on which city ordinance you look at in the state. So if there's a range of things that tickle our fancy, I just, on these bigger issues, I'm uncomfortable with issues being presented to us for action at a meeting without a global discussion.
I would agree.
I'm in favor of having a work session on the 16th to discuss that, as if there's something else, we can come with another couple agenda items. 'Cause I don't know if that's going to take up the whole time.
It shouldn't.
Right.
I'm telling you, it shouldn't.
Okay, should we have a motion to have a, or not?
Well, it's kind of on our calendar anyway.
Proposal?
Yeah.
Should we add in the agenda then?
And she could come and talk about
Okay.
what, I think that'd be great. Yeah.
I
that'd
think
be-
she looked at some of the structures that were
Yeah.
suggested and had some recommendations, but wanted to run those
Yeah,
by
I mean,
you.
it was,
and-
when I read it,
Yeah.
it was kind of like peeling an onion, depending on whose ordinance you went to, how
Yeah.
many times they met. And state law is pretty clear on the structure,
Correct.
but it's the nuances of how they function and how many
Yep,
people.
yep.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other reports, announcements, council members? Okay.